I'm Shelly Palmer.
I'm Ross Martin.
And you're listening to Think About This.
Today we're going to think about
the marvels of human achievement that get no love.
like my ear-wiggling world record.
We're going to talk to Charles Walters, who founded Williamsburg Pizza and beat Amazon to drone delivery.
We've got Alana Mugden, who's trying to go a full year without her smartphone to win $100,000.
And much, much more. So welcome to Think About This.
The more you listen,
the less you know.
So, Shelly, we're 20 years into the 21st century. When you look back at these 2 decades and marvel at all the human achievements.
And I do.
Which one to you feels the greatest?
It has to be machine intelligence and the amazing achievements of the last 20 years. We've decoupled consciousness from intelligence, and this has empowered all kinds of computational excellence and really propelled humanity to places it's never been before.
See, I thought you were going to talk about the achievement of Jack Kai from Australia, who set the new world record for solving a Rubik's Cube at 16.22 seconds, but did it with a blindfold on.
You're killing me, Ross. Really? This is where you want to go? All right. How about David Rush actually is the highest human achiever of the last 20 years because this guy took off 70 pairs of socks in 60 seconds, and it's a Guinness World Record.
Well, speaking of human achievements, Starburst heard our cries.
They did.
Because they realized we all love the pink Starburst vest, and they've just unveiled a new package with only the pink Starburst in it.
I don't know if that's a human achievement, but that is a marketing achievement beyond marketing achievements. Think about that.
Well, today we're going to dive into 2 of the greatest human achievements of the 21st century that nobody's ever heard of.
No love?
No love. The first represents the battle with the self, that irrepressible urge to use your smartphone. The second human achievement we pay homage to today is that of a man who somehow overcame all the odds and beat both the industrial pizza complex and Amazon.com.
Let's talk about likes for a minute, Ross.
Well, right, because we are getting a lot of people that say they like our podcast.
Okay, but in order to actually show us love, what you need to do is you have to go to Apple, to the podcast page.
Yes.
And you have to give us a 5-star review.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And then you have to write something like, Ross is awesome. I love Ross. Ross is so cool. And Shelly's all right too.
Why can't you just build a bot that would do that for us?
I could, but it wouldn't.
It wouldn't feel right.
Well, actually, it'd probably work, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to ask everybody in the nicest way. So you ask, because no one ever likes it when I ask. You ask.
Hi, everybody. It's Ross from Think About This with Shelly Palmer and me. We would just love it so much if you would head over to the interwebs and like our shit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well done.
Shelly, we are about to meet Alana Mugden.
Alana Mugden is here.
She is a best-selling author.
Yep.
She is a millennial.
She's smart, too.
She's achieved so much in her career.
She has, but nothing like what she's about to achieve.
What she's about to achieve is something I know I could not do.
I couldn't do it.
And I don't think anybody listening to our show could.
Especially millennials and Gen Zers.
What is Alana doing?
What exactly is Alana doing? Well, as far as I can tell, she's agreed not to touch her smartphone for a year. Think about that, Ross.
Not only my smartphone, but any smartphone, any handheld tablet, scrolling technology. I can't interact with any kind of home pods like a Google or Alexa if it's hooked up to a phone.
Can you do me a favor here? We're just going to order some food for the podcast. So I'm taking out my Seamless. If you could just, on my phone, if you could just pick.
Test.
Oh, she got me. I was going to see if I could get her to order food for us on my phone.
You're so mean.
Then she would.
I have had 8.5 months of.
Are you 8.5 months into this?
I'm 8.5 months in. I've become very adept at kind of scoping out when somebody is gearing up to try and show me a phone. I can't even look at a screen because the challenge, of course, is not to use a phone, not to interact with a phone. So there's a gray area of like observation, looking at somebody's screen, and use. So I don't want to blur those lines. So I've like, I can see, I can tell. I have like a sixth sense when somebody gets their phone out, and I can kind of like count the seconds until they try to shove it in my face. And
all right, Alana. So let's get serious. It's Alana Mugden, and you somehow were coerced into the idea that you would put your phone down for your. Oh wait, they offered you $100,000 if you got it right. Tell us about this challenge.
Yes, what I consider to be the real competition segment of the challenge happened last December, and it was hosted by Vitamin Water, and they put out a call to action. They asked the world, what would you do for a year without use of your smartphone? So I had the bright idea to make an infomercial, and my quote-unquote product was no phone. It was in alignment, I think, with the brand's humor, and they liked the creativity of it.
Well, humor is one thing. Putting your phone down for a year, that's something else altogether.
Yeah. I always kind of had this love-hate relationship with the phone anyway. Obviously, I was addicted to it, and that has become extremely evident the longer I go without it.
What did Vitamin Water want you to do? Like, if you're not on your phone, then what are you supposed to do?
Well, my thesis was that I would use the year to achieve everything that I kind of had on my to-do list. So I would have finished my second book and published it, which I did. I achieved that. Finished my third book and get it ready for publication, and I did that. It will be out March 6th. Work on the audiobook of book 1, which has kind of been in the works for like 3 years. So I finally...
How many hours a day did you get back?
If we assume that the least amount of time I spent on my smartphone per day was around 4 to 5 hours, I'd maybe be watching TV and I would still be looking at the phone. Or I'd be out with friends and I would still be on the phone. Or I would be at dinner still on the phone. You know, like it was everywhere. It was omnipresent. It was controlling my life. So if it's 5 hours a day and 365 days a year.
So you're basically saying to me, you got somewhere between 20 and 30 hours a week back.
Yes.
You can. That's a full-time job.
And honestly,
that's a part-time job, 20 to 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week.
It is, and I feel like I got more time back because you don't really count those moments of quiet when you have nothing else to do and you just instinctively reach for your phone.
Do you think you are less productive or more productive?
1,000% more productive.
Do you
100,000%.
And what about your relationships with your friends and family? Have they suffered?
No. Well, that's an interesting question. So I have personally made an effort to, I guess, repair some of the relationships I let fall by the wayside. Not really intentionally, but like my relationship with my parents prior to this challenge, you know, if we had dinner together, I would just spend the entire time on the phone.
Oh no.
You know?
So one of the achievements here has been the redevelopment or the recapturing of those relationships, right? The re-engagement with your parents. Like
Absolutely.
You feel closer to them because of this.
I do. And I've made a conscious effort to, you know, be like, I don't want to say a better person, but be a better person, be nicer, be a better listener, be more engaged when conversations happen.
Here's the $1 million question. Alana Mugden, you've just won $100,000 for not touching your smart device for 12 months. Are you going to run out and grab an iPhone 11? Or are you going to get an Android, a Galaxy Note something or other? Or are you just never going to touch a phone again because you're so changed that your world is so awesome now that you no longer want to ever even look at a smartphone?
I am never going back. That I decided very early on.
Wait a minute. What's that?
This little device.
Hold on a second.
That's our Vitamin Water flip phone.
That is a Vitamin Water flip phone. Now,
it's not a smartphone.
It's not smart.
It's so she can just make calls.
It's what I affectionately call a dumb phone, a Frankenphone. There's lots of big metal bolts in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is the oldest phone they could get to work on modern airwaves. And this is what they provided.
May I see it?
You absolutely may. It does have an airplane mode. I don't know why, because you can't get on the internet.
This is fantastic. I'm holding in my hand, for those of you who can't see, a Verizon Kyocera flip phone. It is in a tough case. This is the kind of flip phone that someone who's in the construction business would have. It's got a push-to-talk walkie-talkie feature, and basically if you threw this from the top floor of your construction site to the floor, or to the ground below 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 floors, it would survive. You wouldn't want it to, but it would survive. And on the front of this Vitamin Water Kyocera Verizon cell phone, which is not a smartphone, it is just a flip phone, it says, and I quote, hashtag no phone for a year, which seems ironic. Hashtag no phone for a year.
It's a little ironic.
So Alana, what have you learned?
I've learned that the technology is incredibly powerful and can be a wonderful thing when used correctly. But I've also learned that none of us use it correctly.
Think about that.
Alana Mugden.
Alana Mugden.
Unbelievable.
I can't believe she's doing this.
With a flip phone.
Right, a Kyocera that looks like it was recovered from the Germans after the war.
Yeah, it probably was recovered after the war. I just don't know which one. I got to tell you, Ross, this is an amazing human achievement. But think about this. She said she might not go back.
Do you believe her?
I don't. Actually, I want to believe her because she was talking about all the time she got back and how she can concentrate and how she, but
how much healthier she feels.
But seriously, do you think you could do it?
No.
I don't think I could make it to this afternoon.
No, I'd like you and I to be there on that last day. She gets the check for $100,000 and she tackles somebody for an iPhone.
That's exactly right. Then give me your phone right now.
Think about that.
I'm Shelly Palmer.
I'm Ross Martin.
And you're listening to Think About This.
The more you listen,
the less you know.
Shelly, we have in the studio today Charles Walters. Now, most people know him as a serial entrepreneur. He started over a dozen companies, lots of different industries. Welcome to the show, Charles. Let's start with what I think is one of the greatest unheralded achievements of the 21st century. You are the inventor of placebitol.
Placebitol.
Now, tell everybody what placebitol is.
Well, placebitol is the very first open label, no deception placebo pill that you can buy at a drugstore.
It's just a sugar pill that says I'm a sugar pill?
It's a sugar pill that says I'm a sugar pill. But really what I want you to do is think about this. In 2010, Harvard published a study where an open label, no deception placebo was as effective as the most powerful prescription drugs in treating IBS. So a light bulb went off in our minds and said, this is really incredible how powerful the mind is and how the mind can actually overcome things that prescription drugs purport to or maybe make it easier to. But how our minds and our many times positive energy, positive thoughts can influence our physical beings.
Okay, so this is why my Fred Flintstone Band-Aids worked so good when I was a kid.
That's right.
Every boo-boo was cured by either Bugs Bunny or Fred Flintstone. And occasionally, Mach 5 and Speed Racer. That was my really favorite Band-Aid.
So, actually. Charles, what you're saying is that it's not the Band-Aid and it's not the sugar. It's the power of the human mind.
It's the power of the human mind, and it's the aspects of taking a pill, things like clinical ritual. They've done studies that taking a pill that's administered by a human in a white lab coat is more effective than just one that you self-administer.
With the right packaging and labeling, makes people believe, well, if I just use placebitol, I'm going to feel better.
That's right. That's right. And so we started thinking about our branding and packaging. So we had the kind of the flagship, if you will, placebitol, which was a more traditional classic label, very clear, clean lines. And it was meant to be a throwback or a connotation to an earlier time, maybe of the 50s or 60s, where things were more simplistic.
Okay. And do you still sell these on the market?
We did some testing and had it in some locations. We felt like this was slightly ahead of its time. We're with my partners on this. We're considering the right time for a full relaunch of placebitol.
I'm in.
I'm
in right now. Think about this, Ross. We talk data all day long. First party data, second party data. Everybody's chasing data as if it's the be all and end all. Right. But the story of placebitol is exactly the other way. So what placebitol tells me is that when you put something in the right context with the right narrative and the right story, you can put someone in an emotional state of mind where their mind actually will control their physiology. I have proof of mind over matter from a bunch of guys in white coats handing out sugar pills.
Most people think that that's Charles's greatest achievement.
By the way, it's pretty close to anybody's greatest achievement.
But when we come back, we're going to find out that Charles Walters did something even more incredible.
I'm Shelly Palmer.
I'm Ross Martin.
And you're listening to Think About This.
The more you listen,
the less you know. Charles, placebitol may be one of the greatest achievements of all time. And if you're ready to relaunch, I'm in. But as Ross said, you've actually taken your human achievements to another level.
Right. So what many people don't know is Charles is also the inventor and former CEO of Williamsburg Pizza, which we know today to be one of the top 5 slices, according to the New York Times, in all of New York City. But it didn't start like that. Charles, how did Williamsburg Pizza, perhaps your greatest achievement, how did that begin?
The origin story of Williamsburg Pizza was we all got together and said, wouldn't it be great if we could come up with a pizzeria? And then we all we negotiated a good lease and we all got into the space. And then we looked around and we're like, none of us know anything about opening up a pizzeria. So what are we going to do, guys?
So what did you do?
So what we did is we did what anyone that's in need of anything does this day and age. We put an ad in Craigslist for a pizza consultant. And sorting through the resumes, we found a Brooklyn native who was on the USA Pizza team and had worked at probably about a dozen different pizzerias that we knew and identified.
I'm sorry, Charles. The USA Pizza team?
The USA Pizza team. So
I'm looking this up while you're talking because, to be fair, that sounds like a stretch. But keep going while I search the internet.
No, don't get it confused with the American Pizza team.
So you found your guy.
We found our guy. I hired him initially as a consultant, but made him a minor partner. And we launched Williamsburg Pizza. And as much a surprise to me and my partners, it was really, really good pizza. And Ed Levine, the author of 1,000 Slices, about 2 months after we opened, said, based on his assessment, it was a top 5 pizzeria in all of New York City.
That's fantastic.
But now the next challenge, which is it's a small pizza joint in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Everybody's starting to find out about it. But how do you get pizzas to people who want to try it, but maybe don't want to make the trek over to Williamsburg?
That's right. And so, Williamsburg is in one specific area, somewhat congested. Being a technologist myself, I was very interested in what was going on in the drone industry and some of the promise of the final mile when it comes to delivery and using flying drones. I started dreaming up an idea of what if we just could deliver in targeted situations, pizza via drone. Maybe it's pizza in Prospect Park or in a local park where we just need to figure out how to get it from the street into the park. Or maybe in the future, not too distant future, it's going straight from the pizzeria to people's homes or apartment buildings. And so I thought, no one's done this in New York. And wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be awesome? Just like the Wright brothers, who were the first in flight. There was certainly an aspect in my head going, they never asked who was second in flight or third in flight. I thought they were very smart folks. So I thought, what can I do as a small business owner to beat Amazon, to beat UPS, to beat FedEx?
And you did it by taking a drone and delivering a full-size pizza inside the airspace of Brooklyn.
We got this first successful pizza drone delivery to Phyllis Brody. It was a gluten-free pie, which is what she
of course it was.
Which is
Phyllis Brody,
of course,
which is what she requested. And then the calls started coming in, not only from the media, but also from a number of people interested in pizza drone deliveries. The advice I'd gotten was to be careful, in irritating and upsetting the FAA. So quickly, my concern, after we defeated the record for the most sales we'd ever done in a day in Williamsburg pizza history, was the day after this drone delivery because of all the press and whatnot. I started quickly working on my defense and the defense case, in which I was able to engage one of the top drone attorneys in the United States.
Drone attorneys.
Who
trying to avoid imperial involvement didn't work out for you. The feds figured you out.
So now you have a member of the USA Pizza team and one of the top drone attorneys on your side.
Well, that's right. The drone attorney was a coup because the first response from his gatekeeper was he doesn't take outside clients. We said, well, there's an article in the New York Post about Mr. Walters doing a drone delivery. And then she said, hold on one moment. We'll patch you on through. And he had beaten the FAA in a court case 6 or 9 months earlier. And while I didn't want to beat the FAA, I did want to come back to them and communicate clearly that what we were doing was not against public safety, not in the least bit.
So what ultimately happened with the drone? I mean, you got your first drone delivery done to great fanfare. It was a fantastic marketing program for your retail establishment. But what ultimately happened?
So then what happened was we realized we thought this was going to be a specialty. Once or twice a month, we'll go and do a drone delivery for someone's birthday party or some special event and use it as a little bit of marketing. But then we thought, wow, the demand is so great. So we knew we had to come up with a way to deliver these that would be both safe and that would be, we call it plausibly legal. And so then that's when we decided to build a pizza spaceship. So it would be a spaceship that actually would travel around. So think of it as a car converted into a spaceship. And then we'd fly the drone out of the top of the spaceship. So we could just pull up right in front of someone's house, think right almost on the curb, maybe on the curb to be legal, so that we were on contiguous private property. And then we just fly it out of the top of the spaceship and then fly it over to their doorstep, fly it down, drop it off, come back. And we actually built the spaceship for that delivery.
Fantastic.
And started parking that spaceship in front of the pizzeria at different times to just garner excitement and whatnot.
Where can people go to see images of the pizza spaceship?
Pizza Spaceship, we have an Instagram account, Mystery Ship NYC.
You also beat out Mercedes-Benz because 2 years ago at CES, they had a Sprinter van, and the Sprinter van had a robot that would load the back with packages, and then there were 2 drones in the roof. The Sprinter van was supposed to be self-driving, but they showed a guy driving the car who looked like a robot, so maybe it was a self-driving guy, Westworld guy. But anyway, it would pull up, and then a couple of arms would pull the box off the shelf out of this module, load it up into the drone. The drone would leave the Sprinter van and then fly to your doorstep. Not why the guy who's in the car couldn't get out and hand the package, I don't know. Charles, you basically beat Mercedes-Benz to the punch because your drone delivery pizza spaceship beat them to drone deliveries. So well done. Do you think there's ever going to be an efficient way to deliver pizza by drone? What the reality is. You got to pack it up. You got to put it in the drone. And there's a tremendous amount of manpower that is in the delivery tool itself. So it's not a self-driving GPS drone. It's not an autonomous drone. It's a human being is piloting this. It's got to be 50 times more expensive than having a bike messenger or somebody. So are we going to ever get there? Or is this just going to always be theater?
I think that you're going to see pedestrian drone solutions or road-based drone solutions before you'll see air-based drone solutions. But for those of us that live in urban areas, there is a final mile concept.
Sure.
That, potentially airborne solutions. But I think there's too many safety.
No, look, I live in a building. It's a doorman building, but because there have been some incidents with delivery people in the building, you actually have to go down to pick up your whatever's delivered. There's certain people that can come up. There's certain establishments that can. But generally, if you're ordering from someone they don't know, you're going to go down and get it. Of course, you'd just be just as happy to take the elevator to the roof as you are to the lobby. It doesn't make a difference.
Or just stick your hands out the window.
Or
Charles, there's so many entrepreneurs who have dreams like yours, whether it's to put sugar in a pill and sell it at the pharmacy or to
fly someone a pizza.
What's your advice to those who are listening who are marveling at your human achievement?
Well, I think, you can get caught up in not getting X done or Y, thinking I need to get this done before I can do that or get A done before B. But if you can just peel down the essence of what you're trying to achieve and just focus on small achievements and just building up those small achievements, that's how I've always been able to, do bigger things and greater things and not been afraid of people laughing at me or making fun of me, because that's a part of how you learn. That's a part of how you stretch. That's a part of how you grow. And thinking outside, the proverbial box. Hopefully you don't see a box. I certainly don't see a box.
Charles Walters, 2 incredible human achievements in one man. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, Charles, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, now.
Shelly, Charles Walters,
Yeah.
celebrating the 5th anniversary of Williamsburg Pizza.
One of the top 5 slices in the city of New York.
And thinking about that just makes me want a drone to descend upon our studio.
I need a drone right
with
now.
a pepperoni pizza.
Okay, we could have a pizza check at another time, but yes, some kind of pizza delivered directly to the studio right now by drone.
Think about that. We went out to the street to find out what people consider to be modern marvels of human achievement.
Spell check.
I think speech to text, because that has so much for accessibility.
The printer. They can make them real small now.
3D printer, but that's how they think they're going to colonize the moon and Mars, is just send the stuff there and print up. And organ printing as well, I guess, that's happening as well. So printing as a whole.
Cloning. Did you know that we can literally clone dogs and animals?
I'd say Twitter.
Flying. Flying is crazy.
Fertility and how a lot of women have trouble getting pregnant, and with technology and education, how now that's a easier option for a lot of women.
So Ross, you yourself have a marvel of human achievement.
Well, Shelly, I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to brag.
But
Well, if you insist.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I did own the ear wiggling world record.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the world record for the most ear wiggles in 30 seconds.
That's amazing.
I did 67.
In 30 seconds?
Yes, I lost it recently to a nice man from India who beat me. He did 77, I think.
What's an ear wiggle?
You want to see it?
Mother of God. No, you did that 67 times in 30 seconds?
I did. I don't know where it started or how I learned to do it, but I can do that.
Okay, for those of you at home, here's what just happened. Ross took his headphones off and his ears started to move back and forth like pulsating ears.
Everybody has a hidden talent.
I guess.
It's just about finding yours. And I gave you something to remember. I hope you'll think about that.
Think about this. Carbon dioxide is a powerful greenhouse gas. And we know for a fact that we're pushing 400 parts per million in the atmosphere. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, especially when you look at what it was like 250 years ago or 500 years ago before we started burning fossil fuel the way we burn it now. What does it mean? Well, sometime in the next 100 years, if the trend continues unchecked, which it looks like it's going to, we could see carbon dioxide levels hit 500 or 600 or even 700 parts per million. Around 500 to 600 parts per million, all of the ice that's on land that we can see will melt. That means the polar ice caps will melt, and that means sea level's going to rise. Some say as much as 80 meters, roughly 270 feet. What does that mean in real human terms? It means coastal cities will be underwater, and we'll see a refugee crisis and a food crisis unlike any we have seen in our time. How do you solve for that? We have to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. How do you do it? Well, one great way is to plant trees. The other great way would be to inspire governments to regulate carbon dioxide production. I'm not optimistic about that, but I am optimistic about human beings being able to achieve great things.
And while the rest of us are sitting waiting for governments and corporations to solve the climate crisis, I'll point to two modern-day Johnny Appleseeds. The first, Gene DeSantis in Baltimore, has planted more than 13,849 trees by himself in Baltimore over the last 3 decades. And not to be outdone, how about Muhammad Yusuf Jamil from Pakistan? He's a soldier in the Pakistani army. He took one day off and planted more than 20,000 trees himself in the course of 18 hours.
So, from all of us here at Think About This with Shelly Palmer and Ross Martin, let's plant some trees.
Think about that. Shelly, I just got back from Parents' Weekend at Dash's boarding school.
Oh, how'd that go?
It was fantastic. I loved it so much. My favorite part was the food.
No way.
Yeah, because it's free.
No, it's not, Ross. You pay for boarding school and the food is included.
Well, let's say you could eat as much as you want.
Yeah, that I'll accept.
So I ate everything I possibly could because I've wanted to get my money's worth.
And yet you're so thin.
Yeah, thank you.
And good looking.
What do you think was the most popular section of the cafeteria?
I know what it was.
What?
It would had to be dessert.
It was dessert, and it was specifically the soft serve ice cream machine.
They have one?
They do, which has this line that goes around the corner, and it's worth the wait.
I'm sure it was. Was it the swirly kind or just one flavor only?
You could do it either way.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I combined the vanilla and salted cracked caramel.
Crack caramel.
That's what it's called, salted cracked caramel, because they crack, and every parent wants more of it. Every kid wants it.
Yeah, well named.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
I realized I was not up to the task. So if this is the episode about human achievement, I have completely failed. I approached the machine, and everyone's watching everybody do it. And I grab my sugar cone and I pull down, and the ice cream starts to come in an awkward swirl, shall we say. And I'm thinking to myself,
not awkward swirl syndrome.
How am I going to get this thing to look like everybody else's tall ice cream cone?
You had limp ice cream, right?
I had limp ice cream. Failed. Limp ice cream. I am a terrible soft serve ice cream dispenser. And I had this limp tower that was sort of like a limp nub, and it was kind of caving over to one side, and everybody saw.
I'm so embarrassed for you.
Human achievement.
Think about that.
You've been listening to Think About This with Shelly Palmer and Ross Martin. If you think you know less than you did before, just wait until our next episode on the Westwood One Podcast Network.